My name's Tom Nichols. I'm a wildlife ranger with NT Parks and Wildlife Service. This is in crocodile management. There's 5 of us in this unit. We are in charge of the crocodile management in the top end of Australia. We have permanent traps set in Darwin Harbour, and we also respond to call-outs from the public, station owners or Aboriginal land to crocodile problems in those areas. The situation with crocodiles in Darwin Harbour on the top end at the moment, there is certainly the numbers have increased. The crocodile numbers have most certainly increased. We're getting more and more crocodiles in Darwin Harbour, and especially during the wet season they're ending up in areas where we hadn't found them before previously. So we have permanent traps which are set in Darwin Harbour, Shell Bay. During the wet season especially, when we have a lot of rain, all the freshwater systems join up with saltwater systems, so the chances of saltwater crocs getting in areas which they didn't get into before are quite high. Now if we didn't have this program going, the chances of a fatality would be extremely high too, considering the close proximity of crocodiles in Darwin Harbour and also the public residential areas, the utilisation of recreational swimming or activities on the water and commercial uses. We've had the last fatality in close to Darwin area was a young girl which was taken by a crocodile in the rural area. That was, I think it's 3 years ago now. That was a bad situation. There was a group of kids that were swimming in an area where unfortunately they shouldn't have been, but because of the wet season and crocodiles moving into these areas, unfortunately there was a fatality and
died.
Yeah, fatality. Yeah.
She has been eaten, or did you find the body or something like that?
Yes, she was. Yeah, she was found. Yeah. Taken. That was quite. I can't remember the exact dates, but it was quite some time ago now. It would probably be even 16 years ago or longer. That was he was fishing on the East Alligator, and he was up to his waist in water, and a croc came from the water, and he was taken by a crocodile and died. So that was quite some time ago. I can't remember the exact amount of fatalities, but we've probably had probably 5 others in the Northern Territory since then. Yeah. Well, we're an operational use, so we don't have the say of what's going to happen with crocodiles. That's for senior management and government to make that decision of whether numbers will reduce or not. There's obviously a cry from the public every time a fatality takes place or an accident takes place, people wanting culling, but it's also worth a lot of money to both to the tourist industry, the croc farms, and you've got the skin industry, and the egg collection. So crocodiles are also worth money, and also they're a problem to the public. It's not an easy one to sort out, but that's something which the government and senior management will have to take in consideration. Look, there's always going to be a problem. It doesn't matter whether there's people are going to be scared of crocodiles. It doesn't make much difference whether it's a crocodile or a shark or a bear attack or something like that. People have this phobia about being eaten by an animal, and yet it's probably less chance of being eaten by an animal than it is getting killed by a human. So it's a phobia which is probably worthwhile considering, especially swimming up in the top end of top end of Australia, whether it's Northern Territory, Queensland or Western Australia. Crocodiles inhabit these waterways, so people must be aware of crocodiles. Now we have a great school program going which we call Crocwise, educating kids on where to swim or where not to swim and the dangers of crocodiles. And this seems to be fairly successful due to the fact that we monitor a lot of the freshwater areas where people swim, or especially kids swim during the wet season, and there's less people swimming in these areas than ever before. So I think the program's getting across, and we try to educate not just the kids but also adults too. So the big line is Crocwise. You do not swim unless there's an area which is marked safe for swimming. If there's no sign saying it's safe to swim, you don't swim there. It's just the way it is, because we can't guarantee where crocodiles will be. During the wet season they end up in all different places. They can end up in the rural area swimming from swimming pools to fish ponds, backyards, and unfortunately people must be aware. We have a 24-hour hotline which we have a response. We have a response unit which goes out to any of these phone calls to assist. Okay, now this is just an area. Now we could be working anywhere in the top end, depends where we get a phone call, where there's a problem is. But this basically is a map of our management zone in Darwin Harbour. Here's the city of Darwin. This is the Darwin Harbour itself. All these dots, all these red pins, and you've got some yellow pins, they represent where we have permanent traps set, and also along the Shell Bay area. These traps are permanent, they're set, they're checked and rebaited every week, and animals are taken out. We rely very heavily on the public for their phone calls, for sightings, so that we can monitor these situations or go out and set traps in these particular areas. And the public is very good and forthcoming on those particular sightings. But look, there's always going to be attacks sometime, somewhere. It's just a matter of when, but we do our best to prevent any interaction between public and the crocodiles. Now tomorrow we're going out to do one of our trap runs. We'll be checking some traps tomorrow, and because of the tides we'll be leaving quite early in the morning, and probably roughly about 3 hours.
He has in his head to attack a boat. Okay, you are on.
Okay, this is the attack on a boat which happened on the weekend. Now this happened in the Kakadu area on the South Alligator River. It's fortunately or unfortunately, the more and more people are now going fishing overnight, and they're going long distances and they're camping in areas where they wouldn't normally camp. These particular blokes were camping at night in the river itself, and this boat, crocodile, roughly around about 4 metres plus, attacked the outboard motor.
Very, very big crocodile to do such a damage?
Oh, it would have been 4 metres plus, yeah. It would have been a good sized crocodile, and he'd certainly done some damage. And the blokes were lucky enough that they were in a, good sized boat. It was a system where at night, once again at night, when blokes were camping on the boat itself, a crocodile jumped into the boat. It was a smaller one, and nearly bit one of the persons that was in the boat itself. Some crocodiles, but not the numbers that there are here today. Now there would have been a reasonable amount of crocodiles, because they were shooting up until 1974, when shooting stopped off crocodiles. They became a protected species. So in say 35 years, they've gone from what they said was roughly around about 5,000 animals up to 100,000. So it certainly has increased quite dramatically. So the numbers are there, and it's up to the government to decide what's going to happen from there.
So
that's for sure. It's certainly, with all the fishing spots and the amount of people that utilise the waterways in the top end, the chances of a fatality are quite high. And if a crocodile wanted a human, they could have one every day of the week, but they're certainly not a major part of the food chain. It's just unfortunate incidents that do take place. There's no doubt that numbers have increased, and they are a little bit too high, but it's up to the government and senior management to decide what's going to happen from there. And that's where crocodiles, the utilisation of wildlife, especially crocodiles, have proved to be very successful.
too much, no?
They farm animals, they collect eggs from the wild, they hatch them in incubators on the farms itself, and these become first grade skins, and they're sold to France, Italy, and they're worth big money. So there's an industry there in the crocodiles itself. As far as the eggs are worth money to the Aboriginal landholders or other station landholders. The eggs and the skins themselves are worth big money to the farms. And the tourist industry itself with crocodiles is worth a lot of money.
Yeah, but
I'll tell you in 25 years' time, I don't know if that's the case. I believe they're plateauing out, they're sort of stabling out, because they, you can only hold so many crocodiles in systems, so only time was going to tell there. You can get photos of the traps tomorrow working anyway.
yeah, we will see tomorrow on that.